that everybody want to be a black person, but they don't want to be a black person.
Yeah.
So they don't want the privileges of a black person.
So, from a white woman's perspective,
I'm not the right person to talk to because I can't tan.
But would you wish to be darker if it is possible? Welcome back to Inspektv, where you can get the insider's perspective. Before I continue, we actually have a new person here. Please introduce yourself.
Okay, thank you so much for having me here. I am Marcel from Cameroon, and as we were discussing earlier, I come originally from both the English and the French-speaking sides. So Cameroon historically was a French and British colony. So we have 10 regions, 2 English and 8 French. So my dad is from one of the French-speaking regions, and my mother is from one of the English-speaking regions.
Nice.
And which is why I can speak French. Comment ça va?
Ah, ça va bien et toi?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much for introducing yourself. So let's continue, guys. Welcome back. And so the debate, we're going to touch 3 points. So the first one is, can colored people ever fully claim an identity that is distinct from both black and white, or inherently a byproduct of racial mixing and apartheid colonization?
I think that being colored is a distinction from being black or white. it's not so much a distinction, but an acknowledgement of being different variants of different races. And like I said before, certain colored people are not necessarily black. They don't have black blood, so they would distinguish themselves from being black, or other colored people do have black blood, and then you are black as well as colored, depending on where you are in the world.
Yeah. For example, you're from South Africa, right? So do you think it was because of the British people that you have this color, or did it exist before that?
Colored people were in South Africa during colonialism. I think with South Africa it's a bit different because we had colonialism and then apartheid. So the British were in charge of colonialism, where there was the oppression of all black people by white people. And then with apartheid, which was the Dutch Netherlanders running that regime, it became more distinctive and it became more accustomed for South Africa, where it was like a project.
Yeah.
Where we're going to divide you and we're going to rule you. And so those races already existed, colored already existed. They just gave it certain hierarchies.
Okay. What about the others? For example, in Ghana, how does that affect you? Like, I know that there's like fair people, but mostly when we come to West Africa, in general, they're like more dark people than the fair ones. Yeah. So, do you think that color came from the colonizers, or because it's different for South Africa since the Indonesian, for example, or the Madagascar has been there? What about the West African? What do you think about it?
For West Africa, it's not really colonialism, but it's mostly about people that migrated to Ghana.
Okay.
So it's like they moved there and then they started like mixing with the locals, and then now we have like maybe a few mixed people. But then for us, there's no difference. Like we are all still the same. Like, everyone is treated the same. We don't care whether your skin color is a bit lighter or darker than someone. Everyone is treated the same. So it's like, even though they have a different skin color, like it doesn't really make a difference.
Yeah.
I would say the same thing for America. I don't think it really makes a difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what about Cameroon? Like, do you have light-skinned people, or like it's mostly?
Yeah, we do have light-skinned people, but one thing I've actually noticed is that sometimes, especially in the upper echelons of society, you would see people like ministers, footballers. I would say even almost all Cameroonian footballers have wives who are more lighter, on the lighter spectrum. I'm not sure if it's just a preference because of, status and wealth, but that seems to be a trend. So I believe it's a bit subconscious, especially, for example, some women do think that if they are able to lighten their skin, they may have access to higher economic status.
Yeah.
So they seek to actually engage in, looking as light as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I would say. I think there is definitely a psychology attached to how you would be perceived if you were darker skin compared to if you were lighter skin.
Wow.
Interesting.
I'm curious. How does that? Sorry.
Sorry, I have a follow-up question.
Yeah.
Does that make you angry?
Actually, when I was younger, I have to say that I was tempted at some point to engage in skin bleaching practices because all of my friends were doing it and they would just say, oh, it's just bringing out my natural color. So apparently the unnatural color comes from the sun burning your skin.
My God.
It's later. Okay, I didn't get to do it because, of course, I was prioritizing other things then, like my school and, other objectives in life. But I did have that lingering thought at the back of my mind. How would I look like? How would I be treated if my skin color was different? Yeah.
We could also talk about it being in the reverse as well. We have a lot of white people that want to darken their skin because they want to sort of, I don't know.
They think it looks beautiful to be darker.
They think it's beautiful to be black. I remember there's a comedian that said that everybody want to be a black person, but they don't want to be a black person.
Yeah.
They don't want the privileges of a black person.
But I mean, you're a white lady.
sense.
How to, from a white woman's perspective.
I'm not the right person to talk to because I can't tan. I go red. So I'm not really the person to talk to.
But would you wish to be darker if it is possible? Especially growing up in South Africa, maybe you have that kind of discrimination just because you're white?
Not so much. I didn't feel it in my childhood, but I always knew if I was in the sun, no way I'm tanning. If I go brown, that's a surprise, But it was never a real thing for me to be I want to go dark. I want to show off that I can go dark. It was just, this is my skin color. Okay, I don't want to change it. I'm quite happy with it. I did have a few friends that were self-tanning and all that. And I just thought, it made it look nice because, make you glow. But it's just, it goes away, and it doesn't stay. So there's no point to it.
Okay. And Sarah, let me ask. Okay, go on.
I just want, before maybe we go to your question, because there isn't only this colorism literally in the sense of the skin color, but there's also the concept of the hair differences.
Yeah.
As Whitney earlier mentioned, this straight hair versus more curly and more
straight hair,
less straighter hair. So in Morocco, for example, there is this. It's not as much separation between the people, but just this kind of envy. But as far as I have experienced it, it really goes both ways. I have naturally curly hair, more because my dad has almost an afro hair, and my mom has a literally straight hair.
Okay.
So obviously, we got the bad ones. I mean,
what made it bad? Just because you have.
I'll explain. There is a story behind it also because. When I was younger, I was more inclined to be more jealous of my friends that can do their hair in certain ways, and I was almost hating my hair for being curly. But as I grow older, I actually start liking my curls, and I love how it looks. And then I started sharing it with other people, and other people being envious of how my hair looks like. So it's really both ways. I'm envying them, and then they're envying me because I have access to other things. While they have this look. So for me, it's not really that one is good and one is bad. Of course, sometimes I'm thinking it's difficult to wash my hair. I'm not a straight person, a straight haired person that is going to be washing it more often, doing all of these things with it. But my hair allows other things, and I love it for what it is. So it was just growing up in this kind of distinction, but then you actually start accepting yourself. You know, you're a teenager, you don't know, you just see that the popular girls have all of this like straight hair and all these things, but then you grow up and then you're owning it. You love yourself more, you love what you are, and then the hair also is part of it. So I joke sometimes with my mom and I tell her, why couldn't we get your genes when it comes to the hair, because it makes it easier. But in fact, like, I don't think that my personality would be suited with straight hair, to be honest.
Nice. I think it shapes you in a way, right?
Definitely.
And speaking of, what about because you guys are not like more intertwined with the Europeans. You're like more connected to the Arab nation. So what about that when it comes to like the colored identity? Is it like inheritance for us, for you guys?
Definitely. You can see, of course, I think also what I just mentioned now about the hair goes also with the European, like this comparison with our counterparts. But when it comes to your question, obviously, when I used to live in France, it is more common to have Arabs, for example, living in France. And of course, Arabs and Africans are considered almost like the same as foreigners in that culture. It would still be perceived differently. So we're not really considered as parts of the society as such. And reversely, when a European, so a white person, comes to Morocco, it's literally the opposite behavior that we have with them.
Okay.
We're appreciative of them. We want to help them and so on. But, you notice sometimes that the Western society views Africans as a burden to their society, when in fact, when you see the people that are actually living in Europe, most of them are educated. Actually, many of them are educated back in our countries and then come here to finish our education, study even more than most of the people, work twice as hard to show our worth and how we can actually be here and still be considered second class citizens, even though I'm paying taxes like everyone else. I'm doing my duties, I'm respectful, I do everything I can, but still, you always have this perception that you are kind of lesser in some kind of scale.
Okay, so can I ask a question? Because we hear a lot that the North African people, they say, no, we're Arabs, we're not Africans, right?
By ethnicity, yes.
Ethnicity. So when it comes to that, okay, let's say when you are in Morocco and the person asks you like, hey, are you African? And then, and what about when you live in France and they ask you, for example, where are you from? You say for Morocco, or if they ask you, are you African? What is your response?
Of course, I'm African.
Yeah.
I mean, how am I going to describe it? First off, most of the people who I tell that I'm Moroccan, sometimes they think it's Monaco, and I'm like, do I look like I'm from Morocco? Right, nice. No problem. But it's Morocco, North Africa. Like the closest point to Europe, and started describing it to people. But naturally, my identity is linked to the continent where I live. And
I do have a question for the panel, if we don't call it a panel. Okay. Did you guys see Cleopatra on Netflix?
Nope.
Yes.
And
What about it?
on a scale of 1 to 10, how offended were you on its interpretation of Cleopatra?
Because
I just heard about it. I haven't watched it.
Now I'll go watch it.
It's the depiction of Cleopatra being black, even though historically that's not accurate at all.
That is not. She's Greek.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's a bit cliche, to be honest.
Yeah,
she's Greek?
Yes, she is Greek.
Originally.
So the show was produced by Jada Pinkett Smith, and and this is one of the examples of what I claim of like the media pandering to a certain segment of the population, even though it's inauthentic. To make Cleopatra black, and to have experts on the documentary say, I don't care what schools and universities tell me, Cleopatra is black. Like, who are you serving here? Like, what are you trying to achieve with this propaganda?
Yeah, that I see. Sometimes it goes like extreme.
It triggered Egyptians so much that the state of Egypt is suing Netflix for showing.
Which I don't blame them.
I did not know Cleopatra was not black.
That's like the mentality.
I've always known she was like Nefertiti.
A lot of people believe that Cleopatra is black, which is
I mean,
foreign fur.
She wasn't an Egyptian.
She was an Egyptian, but she became a
was
pharaoh. She was the last pharaoh.
Yeah.
And you should know that she was.
Do we like have like her like family tree?
She was Greek.
Yeah, she was Greek. It's like no one.
Yeah.
Goodness me. All right. I need to refresh my history. Okay.
Yeah, nice.
All right, so what you got for a Black American?
Nice. Okay, so Chris, what about your roots? Like when it comes to like as an American, you have like a Black roots, or how like you said you're half Puerto Rican and
I'm half Puerto Rican, half Bayesian.
Yeah.
My mom's side of the family is from Barbados. Technically, it's called Barbadian, but we're Bayesian. We do celebrate African heritage. Growing up, my family celebrated Kwanzaa, which was it is an American holiday that started as an African American who wanted to take a week in December to celebrate Black history and Black heritage. It was a contradiction to what people celebrate for Christmas. So we wanted our own Christmas or our own, Hanukkah. We wanted, and that was Kwanzaa. So growing up, we did celebrate our African heritage, our African history. But when it comes to identity and what I would identify as myself, I'm a Caribbean American. That's how I would identify. Even though I could say that I'm African, me being on the panel, I've learned so much about Africa now in the 2.5 hours we've been together, compared to my whole life learning about Africa. Like, I grew up watching Roots. You guys know Roots, the movie? My mom forced me to watch that. So, like, I grew up watching that, but it goes back to what we were talking about before. Like, if I were to learn about African culture or, like, African history through media, it's always about slavery.
Yeah.
And I know that's not the case. I know there's more to it. But, yeah, like, I am a proud Black man. I will always call myself a Black man because if you see me walking down the street, who am I? I'm a Black man. Like, they're not gonna say, "Oh yeah, this is an African," Like, I'm not.
just
There's
a
nothing
Black man.
African about me. I'm a Puerto Rican Bayesian man.
yeah.
I am colored. Call it. Oh, we were talking.
Not like the South African
I was talking about like right now we're having this discussion about what's more appropriate to say, colored people or people of color.
Yeah.
Americans do not understand the concept of color.
Yeah,
They are actually offended by that concept.
It's crazy. It's
But
crazy.
for
in
South
America.
Africans, it makes complete sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.